All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Everything is connected. Early chatters are in. Thank you guys for showing up early for the shows every day. I appreciate that. And always a lively conversation in the chats beforehand. We are live on Rockfin. Hello, Rockfin viewers, please come check me out on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com, where they do not censor or suppress. What's up, all? CB Unglesby, Annie the Gardener, Poppy Davis, Judy Truitt, Human Love, Solidarity, Had Valmer, Loie Appitz, Poppy Davis. I think I said Poppy Davis. Sorry if I said your name twice, but it's a good name, Poppy Davis. And yeah. 31 watching, 20 likes. Please like the video. I was just looking through the chats a little bit. Jacob, you said you thought I had an appointment today. I don't know. Did I have an appointment today? I can never keep anything straight. I put things down in my calendar. I send myself reminders. I write lists. I do all manner of things to try and keep what's happening straight, and I still can't seem to do that. Nasbin abs? What the heck does that mean? Weird. Okay. All right. We have Kevin Shanholzer, Urban Hermit, and Poppy Davis rocking out on Rockfin. Thanks, guys. All right. Let's see. We got too many things, as usual, to cover. Too many things. Let's see. This is from Steve Westlake. Tweeted this out. He said, now, lots of high-profile celebs in the media getting the COVID vaccine as an example to everyone else. It seems to be kind of a thing. Everybody's like, yes, I'm a good person. You should be too. Look at me getting the vaccine. I'm not saying anything about anybody who's getting a vaccine or wants to get a vaccine. Please, if you feel like it's necessary, if you feel like it's necessary, please go get the vaccine. If you are pro-vaccine, have a vaccine. You know, if you think it's the right thing to do, go for it. Anyways, he says, lots of high-profile celebs in the media getting the COVID vaccine as an example to everyone else. We know this messaging works. Check. Next. Lots of high-profile celebs in the media reducing their carbon footprints as an example to everyone else. Check. I thought this was an interesting tweet. And I get it. He's tying, he's trying to tie scientific evidence that the high-profile celebs and the wealthy of the planet are destroying the planet, and they should be the ones to be lowering their carbon footprints first. I totally agree. I agree and support this. I endorse this message. Do you think this is actually going to happen? Some celebs might do it. Others not so much. And again, just because something happens on social media doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Just because somebody's saying, like, look at me getting a vaccine, doesn't mean they're actually getting a vaccine. Could all be performance art. We don't know. We're not sure. We're assuming this on face value that this is true. If a high-profile celeb was like, look at me, reducing my carbon footprint. I mean, in how many ways could that turn into a performance piece? While they're busy, sailing on yachts and flying on airplanes, sailing on airboats, flying on airplanes and doing all manner of destructive things, right? What would it truly take for a wealthy high-profile celeb to actually indicate that they're lowering their carbon footprint? Not saying that some of them don't live a low carbon footprint lifestyle. Some of them may. But we're talking about the big boys, the really nasty polluters, right? The people that party on yachts and own private jets and own private islands and right. I would like to see someone give their wealth away, right? And say, like, look, I have all this money. I'm gonna live on $100,000 a year, which is so much money. $100,000 a year is so much money. I'm gonna put all this money in a trust or in an account, and I'm gonna get $100,000 a year. And anything I make after that, I am giving to the homeless. I'm gonna create homeless shelters. I'm gonna give to food banks. I'm going to encourage other celebrities to live low carbon footprint lifestyles, and I'm going to give this money over to finding, experimenting with maybe new agriculture or educational programs, or I don't know. There are myriad of things that you can do with all that extra money. But make sure people have homes and places to live might be a good thing to donate your money to first. Anyways, just a thought before I ramble on too long. We have a winter storm in the Northeast. This isn't necessarily climate change news. I mean, it's December. The news, I guess, around this is that it's mid-December, and I've heard from a lot of people who live in the Midwest and the East Coast, specifically people who live in the Midwest, people who would normally get snow by this time of year already. Nobody, there's a lot of people out there who are saying that they haven't seen snow yet. No snowfall yet again, and this isn't just this year. This has been a trend, and so that's the part that ties into climate change, is that the trend over the last at least 3 years, if not 5 years, has been that winter starts later and later. There is less and less snowfall. We were just talking about I just played you the Jennifer Francis podcast. She was saying that the reason why there was a bit of a slowdown in ice melt is due to the lack of snowfall in northern latitudes. Creating a split in the jet stream. So that's a thing that is backed up by evidence. There's less and less snowpack and snowfall every single year. The winter starts later every year. I've seen many people saying, like, wow, it's really warm. It's really, really warm for November and December in, the Midwest or the East Coast or wherever. Anyways, they're finally getting some snow, so good for them. Rick Small alerted me to this. Thank you, Rick. This is kind of crazy, but, very quickly, there are twin cyclones in the Pacific South Pacific, Fiji and Tonga issued severe weather warnings on Tuesday as twin cyclones escalated near Pacific Island nations. This is from today, by the way. The Meteorological Service said that twin cyclones were unlikely to join forces, but their proximity to one another complicates estimates. Let me see. Tropical Cyclone Zazu was a Category 1 system which currently carries winds. So this is actually from yesterday in that time zone. Currently carries winds of up to 90 kilometers per hour and is expected to hit Category 2 on Wednesday. Meanwhile, forecasters in Fiji said Tropical Cyclone Yasa had reached Category 3 status as it rumbled off the coast of the main island of Vitu Levu and could turn into a Category 5 superstorm late Thursday. Well, guess what? It is a superstorm. Tropical Cyclone Yasa hits Fiji. Government declares state of disaster. This was first posted yesterday, updated 4 hours ago. A powerful superstorm has hit the Pacific island nation of Fiji this evening, bringing with it destructive hurricane-force winds, flooding, and massive waves. The severe Category 5 Cyclone Yasa was carrying wind speeds of up to 240 kilometers per hour when it made landfall on the island of Vanua Levu, with wind gusts of up to 354 kilometers per hour. Jesus. Fiji's Meteorological Service said more than 1,000 evacuation centers have been prepared across Fiji's 2 main islands, and the government has declared a state of natural disaster for the next 30 days to respond to the crisis, urging residents to stock up on food and water, board up windows, and move to higher ground if safe. To do so, the country is now under curfew until Friday morning to keep people off the streets unless they are evacuating. Flash flooding and landslides are likely in some areas. Government warning waves as large as 14 meters could slam the coast. Over 850,000 Fijians are in the direct path of the world's strongest storm, Category 5, Tropical Storm Yasa, that is more than 95% of Fiji's population. So, prayers up for the people of Fiji. Poppy Davis says, my damn fam in Ohio having 17 people over for Xmas Eve. Yeah, people are doing it very differently in different places. It's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, seemed to be a definite split in not necessarily ideology, but attitude towards the virus. Grateful Dan says, check out Robert Hunsaker on Michael Downs' channel. Very doomy interview on abrupt climate change. Thanks for the tip. I'll check it out. Let's move on. This was sent to me by Kevin Shanholzer. And this is kind of piggybacking on what we were talking about yesterday, the oil wells. Leaky oil wells doing a lot of damage. And not necessarily just in the United States, of course. oil being a global phenomenon, oil wells being a global phenomenon. But basically, the story is the oil company drills the well, sucks the oil out of the ground, and then sells the well or, abandons the well, picks up, moves out. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. And the well continues to leak methane and just leak large amounts of methane and become a general environmental disaster. So this is from December 8th, 2020, Unplugged. Abandoned oil and gas wells leave the ocean floor spewing methane. The Gulf of Mexico is littered with tens of thousands of abandoned oil and gas wells, and toothless regulation leaves climate warming gas emissions unchecked. And when you think about all the unchecked emissions and abandoned oil and gas wells all over the planet, and very little, if no regulation around these, you can get really depressed. You can go ahead and get really depressed. Out on the deck of a research boat, Tara Yakovich looked out to the water in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. The seascape is peppered with lights. Every light is part of an offshore oil or gas platform. Offshore platforms can vary greatly in size. Some are as big as multi-storied buildings, while others resemble small but very tall rooms. The boat carrying Yakovich and her team also housed a variety of science equipment, methane isotope readers, spectrometers, and other tools to measure methane levels in the air around these sites. Yakovich, an instrument scientist at Aerodyne Research, is trying to understand the scope of what some scientists say is a massive environmental issue lurking below our seas. Wells are routinely drilled into the seafloor for oil and gas production and abandoned when they stop being economically viable. Sometimes, and it's not necessarily economically viable to clean them up or to take them down or to make sure they're not leaking, at the very least. Sometimes this is after years of oil or gas extraction. Sometimes it's part way through drilling before the well is even finished. But not all these wells are plugged and properly maintained after being left behind. The result, methane and other gases leaking in unknown quantities for years on end from tens of thousands of holes in the ocean floor. Golly and holy shit, will you look at all these wells. If you can see that, I think you can. I don't know if we can get this any bigger, but it's a lot of wells. There we go. And I'm guessing those are wells that they know of, right? The harms for the ocean and its inhabitants and the atmosphere above are largely unknown. Are they? Are they really unknown? Oh my God. But we do know that methane is about 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. This we know. But the harms, unknown, measured over a 20-year period according to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. An EHN analysis of federal data on oil and natural gas wells found that there are 55,315 offshore and U.S. federal waters. 55,000. Oh, joy. Of which are in the 53,000 are in the Gulf of Mexico, according to data from Bureau of Ocean Energy Management and the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement as of November 30, 2020. Of those wells, 28,000, or over half, are permanently abandoned or decommissioned. 3,000 are temporarily abandoned, and those are only in the U.S. and in federal waters alone. So, yes, not even counting probably other wells. Belonging to other countries or outside certain areas. Individual state governments tally and record the offshore wells located in their own waters, and that data is kept separate. Let's just read about some regulatory holes. Offshore oil and gas production in the U.S. began in the early 20th century, with production in the Gulf of Mexico beginning in the late 1930s. It was not until 1982, however, that the government created the Minerals Management Service and passed the Federal Oil and Gas Royalty Management Act, requiring record keeping for where and when wells were drilled and to whom they were sold. So for 50 years, or over 40 years, 40-something years, it was, there were just oil wells being drilled, and nobody was recording anything, and nobody was keeping track or keeping account. 2010, MMS split into what would become BOEM, BSEE, and the Office of Natural Resource Revenue. All U.S. federal waters are now leased out by BOEM, and all wells and platforms are monitored and regulated by BSEE. Once the leases are finalized, companies can drill exploration wells, the initial boreholes used to determine whether an area will be profitable. And what that exploratory well looks like depends on the geology of where you're drilling. In offshore environments, it can be thousands, maybe even 20 or 30,000 feet underwater, and how far into the ocean floor you will drill, again, just depend on that geology. In the early days, companies drilled exploration wells with little to no concern, Williams said. There are some areas where we joke that it's like Swiss cheese. Oh, but now regulators are more scrupulous. As they drill, whether exploratory or not, companies consistently check for economic viability. When that economic viability tips over to red, the owners either sell or decommission. Every well is supposed to be decommissioned when no longer active in concordance with federal law. Platforms at the surface are supposed to be removed, and boreholes in the ocean floor need to be plugged with cement or similar material, but not every well is decommissioned properly. Sometimes, especially if the parent company goes out of business, they are simply orphaned, left to idle and leak until the government handles plugging. Yeah. So here's a nice little chart about what's going on with methane. Atmospheric concentration of methane, global annual average. We are way over half. We're about 2.5 times where we should be. Closing in on 3 times where we should be. So that should be alarming to people, considering the heating potential of methane. Short-term heating potential of methane. And then the thing that nobody ever really ever talks about is that when methane breaks down, it breaks down into what? CO2. So if the short-term heating potential of methane runs out, then it breaks down into CO2 and continues on its merry way of having a heating potential for a long time. That's how really dangerous methane is. The Global Methane Initiative, an international effort to reduce methane emissions, estimates that 20% of the human-caused methane emissions come from the oil and gas sector. That's likely an underestimated figure, of course, Yakovich told EHN, because there's really not that much data on offshore assets. The field of measuring emissions, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico, is fairly new. We're just getting around to that now, guys. No worries. No worries. Hold on one second. Yakovich and her team randomly selected and studied 103 sites, looking at air quality from the platforms as seepage on the ocean floor is hard to measure. The team looked at a mix of both active and decommissioned shallow and deep, and found platforms emitted methane at widely ranging rates, from 0 to 190 kilograms per hour, and the top 2% of emitters accounted for 20% of the total methane emissions. The data show that not every well, orphan or not, is guaranteed to leak, but when a well does leak, there is a huge variability in emissions. Nonetheless, a study points to an incredible problem. The top 2% of emitters, so-called super emitters, leak very high levels of methane but are largely unidentified in a literal sea of sites. While 2% may sound small, when the total is 55,000 wells, 55,292 wells in federal waters, that amounts to 1,104 super emitters in national waters. What's more, a lot of wells are undocumented. Just to add to the fun, the excitement, says Mary Kang, an environmental engineer at McGill University, told EHN. Kang has years of research experience looking at leaky, abandoned oil and gas wells. You go out and you don't find them, and then you go somewhere else and looking for one, but you find 10 others. Oh, Gary. Anyways, it's a multi-billion-dollar issue. And how soon do you think we're going to get, or anybody's going to allot multi-billions of dollars to plugging up these wells? How soon do you think that's going to happen? Oh, and here's another fun fact. One 2019 paper reviewing plug and abandonment methods found that despite many layers of cylindrical casings and cement and barriers, the industry's most used technique for plugging, many wells still leak because of chemical stressors and the constant shifting tectonics of the earth. Just because you plug a well, that doesn't mean it's plugged forever. It's plugged for as long as that piece of material is going to last. Yeah. So, even though you plug it up now, chances are fairly high that those plugs eventually will decay, fall apart, erode, etc. Yeah, so that's it's a really nice problem. That's all I'm going to read of that. But it's good to know. What's up, Muzza? Thumbs up chat in the chat. What's going on? We have 87 watching, 38 likes on the YouTube. Please like it up. And we have a few folks on Rockfin 7, Cornholio says over the past 45 years, the North Sea has warmed by 1.67 degrees. I'd say that's past the 1.5 C guardrail, wouldn't you? Cornholio says he lives about 65 kilometers from the North Sea. 11C. It's 11C where you are, Cornholio. Urban Hermit, 13C. So yeah, warm temps for winter is, I think, what the upshot is. Oop, sorry about that, guys. I don't know why you guys are checking out my Rockfin. No. Hold on one second. For whatever reason, sorry, Rockfinners. You guys are getting all the cool, trippy graphics. But I had a sudden malfunction. Still streaming, but my buttons don't work. But I don't know what to do about that. We'll move on. Robert Arajo says, I saw abandoned gold mines. Equipment left behind, landscape destroyed. Yeah. Humans, you know. They're the best. Humans just running around, breaking shit, leaving their trash everywhere. All right. Enjoy the day. Let's see. Let's see. So much to cover. So little time. This is an interesting story out of the New York Times. How Russia wins the climate crisis. Climate change and its enormous human migrations will transform agriculture and remake the world order. And no country stands to gain more than Russia. Those Russians. They made climate change happen so they can win. It's all a Russian plot. Anyways, you know, just an interesting story. I'm not going to really go deep in this, but I just thought it was an interesting headline. Great transformation is underway in the eastern half of Russia. For centuries, the vast majority of the land has been impossible to farm. Only the southernmost stretches along the Chinese and Mongolian borders, including around Dmitrovo, have been temperate enough to offer workable soil. But as the climate has begun to warm the land, and the prospect for cultivating it has begun to improve. Oh, you don't say. 20 years ago, Dima said the spring thaw came in May, but now the ground is bare by April. Rainstorms now come stronger and wetter. Across eastern Russia, wild forests, swamps, and grasslands are slowly being transformed into orderly grids of soybeans, corn, and wheat. It's a process that is likely to accelerate. Russia hopes to seize on the warming temperatures and longer growing seasons brought by climate change to refashion itself as one of the planet's largest food producers. Yeah. I mean, that'll work for a little while, right? There are problems, of course, with the quality of the soil, right? You know, how well the soil will actually yield. Will yield vegetables and whatnot. But certainly it's a thing. Some places will become uninhabitable or unable to support agriculture, and other places will suddenly become able to support agriculture, right? But here's another interesting part of this. For 2 years, the New York Times and ProPublica have been reporting on the great global climate migration that is already underway. What? These are things that, you know, were predicted for the middle of the century or the end of this century, and lo and behold, it's 2020. And there is a great global climate migration that is already underway. By 2070, more than 3 billion people may find themselves living outside the optimum climate for human life, causing tens of millions of migrants to press northward into the United States and Europe. Most migrants do not move north, excuse me, where there is the greatest landmass and economic opportunity. The U.S. itself, the reporting showed, is likely to undergo its own vast demographic transformation as heat, drought, and rising sea levels displace millions of Americans. In this final installment of our 3-part series, the focus is on who benefits. Yep. This could present an extraordinary opportunity for the world's northernmost nations, but only if they figure out how to stem their own population decline while accommodating at least some of the monumental population push at their borders. They want to stem population decline? Okay. I would think that some might see that as a plus. Or not. If you're still running capitalism, I guess it's not a plus. If you're still running growth capitalism. All of this depends on the economic system staying, this might be good for the ragtag bunch of, communities or tribes that spring out of a global economic collapse or environmental collapse. I can't see this being systemically, beneficial, right, to a nation like Russia or the United States. And you're also relying on this happening slowly enough that people can actually take this into account and then adjust to it, which it looks like, it's possible, but it doesn't look like humans are doing a very good job of doing that right now, right? We're not recognizing the rate of change, and we're definitely not adjusting on any level. We're adjusting on some levels, but we're not adjusting in the main about, what is really going to be a necessary action in the face of climate change. Saying that Canada will move into the ecological sweet spot for civilization. They also say that Canada has a stable, incorrupt democracy. Some might argue against that definition, but anyways. Also, fun fact, Canadians are dying at a faster rate than they are being born. Did you all know this? Did you know this? Climate change by 2100 will make Canadians 2.5 times richer in terms of per capita GDP, and they would be if the planet were not warming. All right, cash in on the climate change stock market right now. Get in on the ground floor. Canada may be able to seize that opportunity only if it welcomes a lot more people. This is why a group of Canadian business executives and academics have called on the government to turn the country's immigration system into a magnet for the planet's most talented people. Well, yeah, we want more people, but we only want the right kind of people. You know what I'm saying? We don't want any hoi polloi, okay? Hoping to nearly triple Canada's population by 2100. The government has signaled some receptivity, increasing its immigration targets this year by 14%. Yeah, so all of this actually undercuts the idea that capitalism runs better when the population is growing. The declining population or a population that is going down is not good for capitalism. It poses a lot of problems for capitalism. Darn. And that's why it's difficult to have conversations around population, or why they've made it a taboo issue for people to talk about. Because it's bad for the economy. What's up? We've got Sweet Leaf, Cornholio, Urban Hermit on the Rockfin. Having a interesting conversation. Continue. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Where are we exactly? That's what I'd like to know. Lastly, I forget who sent me this, but interesting. Federal government accused of wasting time on and money on koala research instead of saving habitat. So we were talking about the fact that maybe scientists should not engage in certain studies and maybe redirect their financing and energies elsewhere, since things are happening faster than expected and the planet is going down fast. Maybe other things are more important to concentrate on in these trying times. Anyways, Australia's principal koala conservation group says the federal government is in denial about the threat to koalas. The Australian Koala Foundation has accused the federal government of wasting time and money in a pointless census project instead of protecting habitat, the one thing that would help the vulnerable marsupial. Foundation CEO Deborah Tabert said she had watched for 30 years while successive governments have claimed koala numbers were higher than the foundation's estimates. You don't say. Fudging the numbers, you don't say. Huh. Interesting. Foundation has long argued that its research showed the koala status should be updated from vulnerable to critically endangered. The government repeatedly says there's at least 10 times more, even though they don't have any data to support the argument. Again, accusations of fudging the numbers. Which I don't doubt. Ms. Tabert likened the situation to the tobacco industry's denial that cigarettes caused cancer. Other industries pretend things aren't in trouble. I mean, you know, everyone said no, all these drugs for having a baby are fine, and we had thalidomide. The tobacco industry says, no worries, it doesn't cause cancer, no worries. Earlier this month, Federal Environmental Minister Susan Ley announced $18 million in funding for measures including a koala count or census. Ms. Tabert said that simply delayed action on habitat. If Minister Ley was really serious, you could just go, yes, Deborah, show me which pieces of land you want us to protect, and I can go to this critical habitat, Ms. Tabert said. No developer, no road builder, no coal mine, and no gas company could wipe that out. Indeed. Ms. Tabert said that was a decision open to the minister. Why doesn't she do that? She has the power right now, right? Time and time again, we're shown how government officials, people in control, people in power, have the power to do things very, very quickly, right? Like pass the CARES Act. Very, very quickly. But they're like, I don't know. I mean, we need to study. We need a commission. We need a task force. We need to get some more support. We need a blah, 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 blah. Anyways, don't cut the trees down. Ms. Tabert said there was no need for the government to map koala locations because the foundation had done it already. She said, like, hello, it's just don't cut the trees down, right? It's very simple, right? Don't cut the trees down. Don't allow all the corporations, the mining and the logging and the land despoilers to come in and overrun their habitat. How about that? And they're like, well, no, let's count the koalas first. Part of the problem is that koalas cannot simply feed on any eucalyptus tree. There are about 600 different species of eucalypts. In Australia, koalas only feed on about 50. And then, even more so, they only feed on the species that are found in their geographical location that might only be about 8 or 10 species. For that reason, breaking up koala habitat had a devastating effect on the animals, right? You bifurcate, you build roads, you start just sectioning off land. You guys, the mining company over here, take this land. We'll leave this land over here for the koalas. And by piecemealing out the land and, making it into smaller and smaller quadrants for use and or saving or whatever it is you're telling people you're doing with the land, you end up destroying all of it, or you end up despoiling all of the habitat for certain animals, right? Right. There's a real knock-on effect with land clearing and deforestation. They're coming in contact with more roads and dogs, other domestic pets, and all of that is just one big, massive knock-on effect. And we know this. Good work, Miss Tabert. Godspeed. Rockfin people, I'm sorry you're not seeing the things. I've lost my buttons on Rockfin and I can't really stop it. But, we can go on and continue the covering of the stories and the talking. So I'll do that. Let's move on. So yes, this story is still continuing, and I am going to still cover this story because it's very important that this story become as huge as possible right now. This is a time-sensitive situation. I'm talking about Jimmy Dore's idea to force the vote, to withhold support for Nancy Pelosi so that they can force a vote on Medicare for all. This is a time-sensitive situation. This has become a huge news story. Not just in the U.S., but beyond the U.S., but most countries have Medicare or some kind of national health program for their entire citizenry. The U.S. does not. I don't know why, because we're completely overrun by corporations. That's why. Anyways, this has become a huge thing, and now it's trending on Twitter, and I urge you all to, tweet at the politicians if you can. The progressive politicians especially, because that's who this is targeted towards. Getting them to force the vote on Medicare for all. Jimmy Dore has rightly said, if this doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen at all. Because Biden's going to come in, there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing and foot-dragging, and then in 2022, the Democrats are going to lose the House because they're so inept. They're holding on to a House majority just by a little bit. Anyways, referencing the stimulus package that they're talking about now, they still have not passed. This tweet, the same people that think $600 will help people survive are the ones that refuse to raise the minimum wage in the past 10 years. Force the vote. Not even talking about Medicare for all, but we need all of these things right away. It's been 10 years, the minimum wage is still $7.25. They were talking about $15 minimum wage 10 years ago. And now, a living wage is way beyond $15 an hour. We need 20 or 25. I don't even know why they're talking about 15. It's ridiculous that they're still talking about this. Nobody can get anything done. The Democrats are completely corrupt and beholden to the corporations, so it's just one big oligarch party. And they're going to do less and less for people every single day. The only really good thing that Barack Obama did that anybody can point to in his administration, maybe there's a couple things, right? I think they legalized gay marriage. Was that one of the things they did? But the other thing was the Obamacare, ACA, which everybody still points to as some kind of victory, when actually it's just a Republican health care bill to force, here we're going to give you health care and we're going to force everybody to pay for it. And then everybody realized what a piece of shit that was. And you know, possibly, could it possibly be that that's one of the reasons why Trump won in 2016? That people were so pissed off about this bullshit healthcare bill? Is that possibly why? It's not the only thing, but it's probably one of the factors that people were very pissed off about. The supposedly really great thing that people were getting, and then it turned out to be not such a great thing. Anyways, Jimmy Dore says, hey, look, another ridiculous reason to keep waiting for Medicare for all. She's arguing we have to wait to build support for the most popular policy in the country. People are really going out of their way to overthink this and not understand politics 101, force the vote. 88% of Democrats, a majority of Republicans support Medicare for all. Altogether, in total, I think this, public support for Medicare for all is like in the 70 percentile. It is hugely popular. The people want it. You don't need any more popular support. Yeah, so it's not on public pressure. It's not on the people to call their to demand. They're demanding right now, so it's not on the people. It's not somebody else's fault or problem. It's not on organizers. It's not union. It's not. This is absolutely true and right and the right thing to do. And everybody, please, if you care about this, please. Tweet at, write to, call your congressman, tweet at the people that are responsible that could do this, and let's make this happen. Let's do it right now or never, right? So let's do it now while we have people's attention, right? This is the time to do it. I don't care if you don't like Jimmy Dore. It's the right thing to do, right? So you can not like Jimmy Dore and still support this. If you don't like Jimmy Dore, whatever, who cares? But this is the right thing to do. So, let's get this done. Catherine Acosta tweets at AOC. AOC, has this gone under your radar? Excuse me. Hold on one second. Sorry, was just hit with a coughing jag. Has this gone under your radar? While we are suffering and dying, the private health insurance industry is raking in fistful of profits. Your committee is more important than this. She's asking, is your committee more important than this? Force the vote and say no to Pelosi, excuse me. The pandemic has been great for health insurance industry. So this is a article. I'm not even going to read the article, but that's what this says. It says that the health insurance industry is raking in profits hand over fist. While people are losing health care or don't have health care, or, Nancy Pelosi is suggesting that you buy Cobra or you buy health care. Hillary Clinton. Now is a really good time to shore up the ACA so people can buy health care when they don't even have an income. Good idea, Hillary Clinton. You wombat. This is also really great meme. This is the last I'll cover of this. This is from We Need a People Stimulus. Force the vote. Call them now. Blow them up. Stimulus now. These 10 House reps can determine if Medicare for all gets a vote. Raul Grijalva, Ro Khanna, Marie Newman, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Cory Bush, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, and Pramila Jayapal. And then this goofball, this bing bong, Calvin James Hannum, I'm in favor of Medicare for all, but 16 million jobs would be lost. 1 in 8 Americans are employed in healthcare. Oh no, the jobs. We can't do anything because jobs. We can't fight climate change because jobs. We can't reduce the military-industrial complex because jobs. It's all right. This is the ridiculousness of capitalism, because everybody thinks having a job is more important than having an environment, or having medical care, or having everybody get housing, or having a peaceful planet. Jobs are more important than having a peaceful planet. Jobs are more important than getting out of regime change wars. Jobs are more important than everybody having health care. What a knucklehead. I'm sorry to say, but that person is one of the most stupid people I have ever encountered. If that's your argument, I don't know. Please do better. Get a life. Read a book. Go back to school. I don't know. Think a little harder about that. Try a little harder. I don't know. We can't have Medicare for all because people would lose their jobs. You are a straight up donut. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard bringing good stuff again. Again, I don't really care what you think about Tulsi Gabbard. This is the right thing to do. This is a good idea. She is introducing a Protect Our Civil Liberties Act with Representative Thomas Massie to repeal the so-called Patriot Act and end illegal government surveillance. Yay. Yay. Go Tulsi Gabbard. She's leaving Congress to do other things, but she's trying to do good things while she's going out. Please support this. I hope that you do. And here we go. Stimulus checks. Could you get $1,200, $600, or nothing? Nobody knows yet. Lawmakers are running out of time to pass another coronavirus relief package. I think they have until tomorrow night, midnight, to get this done. Before Congress adjourns for the holidays, a major point of contention is whether any package will include a second round of stimulus checks, the direct cash payments that helped millions of households weather the economic crunch caused by the coronavirus pandemic. A $908 billion bipartisan bill. Oh, golly. A whole $908 billion when we could have had $1.8 trillion or $2.2 trillion. Thanks, guys. This is what we get. Biden gets elected, and they're like, yes, our guy's in. Okay, how about half stimulus? Yay, Joe Biden won. The fascist is out. How about half the money? I'm afraid there's a whole lot of bing bongs in this country who actually can't even really figure out what the heck is going on. A $908 billion bipartisan proposal initially left out a stimulus payment, focusing instead on providing jobless workers with an additional $300 a week in unemployment aid. All right, that's something. But a last-minute addition to the package can include another round of checks, most likely at the $600 per person level, according to a December 16 research note from Raymond James analysts. And there are all kinds of economic analysts and people running around on mainstream media talking about, well, this would be bad for the economy, or, we don't really need, people don't need the stimulus check. This is fine. It's fine. This is fine. It represents half of the $1,200 payments distributed to about 160 million American consumers through the $2 trillion coronavirus aid, or the CARES Act, basically, this spring. So half the unemployment, if any stimulus at all, probably half the stimulus. Meanwhile, people about to be kicked out of their homes at the end of the month. Again, Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley supporting $1,200 stimulus checks. This is interesting. Tweeted at me from Yellow Vest News AI. Thank you, Yellow Vest News AI. Why the Pfizer CEO selling 62% of his stock the same day as the vaccine announcement looks bad. Do you think so? This is from Financial Post. From November 13th, 2020, selling the bulk of your stake never looks good, but especially when public confidence in your company is a matter of life or death. When Pfizer Inc. and German partner BioNTech announced on Monday that their COVID-19 vaccine was highly effective, global stocks soared. Shares in Pfizer rose 7%, and Chief Executive Albert Bourla sold $5.6 million of stock at a whisker from the company's all-time high. This drew some negative attention, but Pfizer rolled out a tried and tested response. The sale of these shares is part of Bourla's personal financial planning and a pre-established plan which allows, under SEC rules, major shareholders and insiders of exchange-listed corporations to trade a predetermined number of shares at a predetermined time. All of which is correct. Executives usually cannot trade their company stock outside a short window that follows quarterly results. However, the Securities and Exchange Commission makes an exception for pre-programmed sales. The idea is that if you set up a trade to execute automatically, in months or years ahead, you are unlikely to be unfairly abusing inside information. Unless you know that an announcement is going to come on a certain day. I wonder how he knew. When executives are criticized for selling shares at advantageous moment, they are likely to point to a 10b5-1 plan to suggest there is no problem, yet the benefits of these plans are widely overstated. Right. Even if the timing of the trade is locked in, what happens if you control the timing of the announcement? Right. Right. Which I just said. Anyways, yeah, that looked a little bit skanky. A little skanky. Oh, did we cover this? A new variety of coronavirus identified in England. You don't say. A new variant of coronavirus has been found, which is growing faster in some parts of England. MPs have been told. Health Secretary Matt Hancock said at least 60 different local authorities have recorded COVID infections caused by the new variant. He said the World Health Organization has been notified and UK scientists were doing detailed studies. He said there was nothing to suggest it caused worse disease or that vaccines would no longer work. We've currently identified over 1,000 cases with this variant, predominantly in the south of England, although cases have been identified in nearly 60 different local authority areas. We do not know the extent to which this is because of the new variant, but no matter its cause, we have to take swift and decisive action, which unfortunately is absolutely essential to control this deadly disease while the vaccine is rolled out. The changes or mutations involve the spike protein of the virus, the part that helps it infect cells, and the target COVID vaccines are designed around. It is too soon to know exactly what this will do to the behavior of the virus. Fairly frightening. Be on the lookout for a brand new strain of coronavirus. Moving on to another story about Julian Assange. Hold on, checking in with Rockfinners. Hello, Rockfinners. Kevin Shanholder says, Tulsi is the best, we missed out. And the backlash in 2022 is going to be hilarious, indeed. Let's look at this really interesting story. Yes, this is from Project Veritas. I know I don't care about the source. This is actually true and real information. Yeah, Veritas is kind of, sometimes they do wacky things. Sometimes they actually have really good information, but we're going to cover this because this looks to be true and real. By the way, if you're worried about sources, then, you should never read CNN, MSNBC, BBC, Guardian, Huffington Post, never take seriously anything coming out of mainstream media because they also lie and disseminate propaganda. So whatever. Interesting story. Project Veritas releases audio of Assange warning U.S. government of damaging leak of classified information. This is very interesting. So what happened was that apparently Assange called the U.S. State Department and said, we have a rogue former employee that's about to release classified material and could damage people, hurt people. So, they have standards at WikiLeaks, right? They have, they're not, they release things that the public should know. Then they tend to release things that were also declassified. But they weren't, they weren't going to release things that were going to hurt people or put people in danger. And so anyways, let's look into the story. So he was trying to warn the U.S. government that this leak was going to happen. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says, we have intelligence that the State Department database archive of 250,000 diplomatic cables is being spread around and within the next few days will become public. Project Veritas released today an exclusive audio tape of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange speaking in 2011 with State Department Attorney Cliff Johnson, pleading with the government lawyer to act to contain the release of information classified by the U.S. government. A whistleblower provided the audio to Project Veritas so that the American people have a more accurate account of Assange and his conduct, said James O'Keefe, the founder of CEO of Project Veritas. Political pressure is building for President Donald Trump to pardon Assange at the end of his first term, and this tape goes a long way to rebooting how he has been portrayed, O'Keefe said. During the 75-minute conversation, Assange, who initiated the call, said to Johnson that WikiLeaks is very concerned and classified information from the State Department is about to be released outside of its control by a rogue former employee who stole the information in order to establish his own rival media outlet. Yes, so the situation is that we have intelligence that the State Department database archive of 250,000 diplomatic cables, including declassified cables, is being spread around and is to the degree that we believe that within the next few days it will become public, said Assange. We're not sure, but the timing could be imminently or within the next few days to a week, and there may be some possibility to stop it, he said. Assange said to Johnson that in the past, WikiLeaks only released unclassified State Department info, I think he meant, but the next tranche from WikiLeaks would have classified information with sensitive information redacted. However, he said he was alerting the U.S. government that the rogue former employee would not take care to protect sensitive information and that unless something was done to stop him, that release was days or hours away. Interesting. Although Assange said to the attorney he did not actually control the classified information, he did have the encryption key to unlock the materials, and he knew where on the web it was being held. The material, there is an encrypted version of the materials on the web somewhere, and we do not control, Assange said. One doesn't actually need to convey the material itself. One only needs to convey the location of the material and its encryption key. With Assange's help, the journalist said he believed the U.S. government, with its resources, could corral the information in time to prevent its release or even to eliminate the files covertly. If there is another possibility, which is taking down of those files, that is the degree of research and effort that we do not have the capacity to do, he said. There are not so many of them. Anyways, let me go back up here. Sorry. So, going back to the bullet points, in summation, Assange said there is time in case there are individuals who haven't been warned that they should be warned that this classified information was coming out. Assange, to the State Department, said a rogue former employee, Daniel Domscheit-Berg, intends to release classified State Department cables without redactions or other precautions. There is an integrity to Assange's conduct that cannot be denied, whether you welcomed his releases or not. He did have standards, and also, by the way, his standards were also verifying that the information they released was true. So they had a very lengthy verification process around any information that they released to make sure that it was true. So they didn't release false information or hacked information that was hacked and then changed. Yeah, some people assert that information he received was somehow contrived or made up by other entities, Russian government or other people. No, they verified that everything that they released was the actual material, and that it wasn't a fake or a fraud, that it was accurate. Thank you for the super chat, Muzza. Black Bear's links in description. Thank you, Muzza. Appreciate you. I believe there was. I think that was it. Anyways, here's hoping that Assange is... Realize says Assange 2024. I don't know. Here's hoping that Assange does get pardoned. Please and thank you. That would be a really good day. It would be a really good day. Realize says collapse 2028. A good conversation about animal agriculture in the chats. Excellent. Guau Mashi says, hooray for rogue WikiLeaker. Okay. Guau Mashi also says, hooray for Assange. Realize says, Trump has Assange in a maximum security prison, but he's going to pardon him. Valid point. We'll see. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience, and for joining me every day in these here chats and live streams. Thank you for the Rockfinners for hanging with me on the Rockfin. I appreciate y'all. I will be back tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think we're going to do... What do we got tomorrow? We got Friday. What do we do on Fridays? We do Gaslight Fridays. We're going to get gaslit Yeah. Gaslight Friday is tomorrow, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace out.